Welcome to Changing Higher Ed, a podcast dedicated to helping higher education leaders improve their institutions. With your host, Dr. Drum McNaughton, CEO of The Change Leader, a consultancy that helps higher ed leaders holistically transform their institutions. Learn more at thechangeleader.com. Changing Higher Ed is sponsored by Blackbaud, the world's leading cloud software company powering social good. With their cloud solution for higher education, Blackbaud connects thousands of campuses worldwide. Visit blackbaud.com/highered to learn how they can help your institution deliver a better experience. And now, here's your host, Drum McNaughton.
Thank you, David. Our guest today is Dr. Michael Horowitz, President of TCS Education System. TCS is a unique nonprofit company that he founded in 2009, which empowers higher ed institutions to advance student success and community impact. The story behind TCS is an interesting one. As the Great Recession hit in the late 2000s, Dr. Horowitz anticipated that schools would struggle to stay open in the years ahead due to inflated overhead costs and stagnant delivery models. And he created a community model that could provide not just stability, but sustained growth, one in which universities collaborate instead of compete, gain resources, share expertise, and optimize expenditures in the process. Dr. Horowitz is joining us today to talk about how things are changing in the COVID era and explain how that model is even more relevant today than it was 12 years ago during the Great Recession. Michael, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on.
It's great to be with you, Drum.
So I've been looking forward to this. I've known about your company, TCS Education System, for a long time now, and been really looking forward to having a conversation with you about it.
I appreciate that. And if it's okay to offer a bit of nomenclature out of the box, so we're 100% nonprofit, so we don't think of ourselves as a company, rather a nonprofit system of higher education institutions, which are all nonprofit in their own right.
That's fabulous. If you would, give me a few minutes about what TCS is all about, how it came to being, and what do you really want to get out of TCS?
Yes, great. So TCS stands for the Community Solution in Higher Education. I was 9 years into my presidency at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. We had grown the institution from about 200 students facing, one enrollment cycle from closing to over 2,000 students. And along the way, I realized, okay, we're doing quite well. We're still a small institution, and we need the resources of a bigger and broader community. There's 9 years into my presidency, I realized there's so many things I need to take care of that don't have to do with students and teaching and learning, but they're part of the business of higher ed. And I also thought that our faculty and staff and students would be enriched if we could somehow create a bigger community of other like-minded institutions. So that was the nugget of creating TCS. We explored different models. We came up with this idea of the supporting organization, that we would form a formal system that other small, medium-sized colleges that had a profound commitment to student success and community impact could join. We would do as much as possible non-student facing together to drive better costs, better systems, better people, and free up energy and creativity for the colleges to focus on teaching and learning. So that's in a nutshell. In 2009, we formed the system legally. We had a white paper. We looked at, we thought we were very much a big educator in psychology and behavioral science. So we thought logical fields for us to have in our system would be business and healthcare, medicine, nursing, law, kind of higher level professions, nursing. And of course, over the years, we've expanded to others. And by 2010, we had 2 institutions that had joined our new system. First Pacific Oaks College and Children's School joined the Chicago School, and then the Santa Barbara and Ventura Colleges of Law, today called the Colleges of Law. And today we're 6 colleges strong, and we're talking to probably at least one or more at any given moment.
That's fabulous. Now, what are the kind of services, because this is a model, before we came on the show, we were talking about how much higher ed is changing and needs to change. What are some of the services that you provide through TCS that free up an institution to be able to focus more on students?
Again, if you step back and think of almost every business element that isn't directly related to teaching and learning, we do that. So we have a big financial team. So all the accounting, payments, student finance. We do the back office of enrollment. So when we visit other colleges, we find that their admissions team is spending an inordinate amount of time on their computer processing applications. And our thought is, why don't we handle that part on the back end so your admissions team can talk to students and take them on tours and be on the phone and video chats with them. We do the major HR contracts, so health insurance and retirement plans. We have a fantastic marketing team whose only clients are 6 colleges and our system. We have a big technology team, so whether it's the major technology systems or the people on the campus, they're part of that shared services model. A big passion of mine is global engagement. So we have a team that facilitates not the teaching of study abroad and of partnerships, but facilitates the logistics for our students to have experience abroad, for our faculty to have partnerships, to handle the visas for international students. So it's, again, what can we do that lets presidents and faculty and academic leaders focus on student success? There's so many things that have to be done at the local level. The president and her team has to fundraise and do community relations and do all manner of things that shouldn't be centralized. But again, everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. So if a president has to worry about, is their 403B plan compliant? Well, there's an hour or 2 out of the day meeting with consultants or HR or legal personnel. Why not do that on behalf of 1,000 employees instead of 100 or 200?
It certainly makes sense. I recall back in the 90s, there was discussion about these type of things in business. I can't remember what it was called. It was a personnel something system, but it was a HR function that businesses would belong to, and it would free up all of those things. It's like you have done this type of thing, but you've taken it to a whole new level and focused completely on higher ed.
Right. There are other existing models of shared services. We love working with Zingerman's Deli out of Ann Arbor, which has grown to a group of food companies, but they also have a consulting arm, Zing Train. We've worked with them. And so they've had to set up a shared services office because they have 10 distinct businesses. I think what is unique in our model is you also are part of a formally governed system. And so I'll give you an example. We have academic assembly where 100 faculty come together from all of our institutions to share best practices. They talk about how can we share curriculum and courses and create dual degrees. No one tells them they have to do it, but there's sort of the excitement about having these colleagues all across the country. Every year we try to bring board members together. One year we bring them to the AGB conference, wherever that's held. The other year we hold our own conference. So now you have 70, 80 board members from 7 different boards saying, yeah, these are common issues. How do you handle risk? How do you talk about innovation? What are you doing in the financial area? but it creates a level of community for faculty, for board members, for every level of the organization. So I can't tell you how much help we've gotten from board members who aren't even on the board of the college that they're helping. We're starting a new medical school in Wichita, and one of our hospital and board connections there came from one of our other college board members. So I think the secret sauce, in a way, has been this creation of community that then kind of creates even more goodwill when we share the services. And it isn't sort of a top-down demand. You have to save money in shared services. No, we're joining as an institution, so we're going to work on all of this together.
And that goes right to the heart of your mission and what TCS stands for.
Correct. We're not a vendor, trying to create profit by doing the shared services. In fact, in our model, most of the assets that exist within the world of TCS stay and belong at the college level, and they've seen their financial strength grow as a result of being within TCS. It's a teamwork. When our IT team works or our marketing team works at a college, they feel that they are very much a part of that college and a part of that mission. We'll never have a key position go down, because when we were lacking a leader at one of our colleges, one of the other colleges said, hey, why don't we have the dean from this campus go down and serve your institution while you're looking for a new leader in that role. It sort of creates a family, a team, a community environment that I think 10 years into it feels unprecedented in higher education.
Well, it really is. You've got some state systems who are thinking about this type. I don't know of any state system other than possibly Cal State, and they don't do it to the same degree that you are, with the budget cuts like what was announced at Alaska a while back. They were looking at something like this, but I don't know whether they'll get there. The only college that I know that is doing this type of thing is the consortium of colleges out around Palmdale in California, and the name escapes me right now. They have a consortium of schools that work together, but again, I don't think it's at the same level that you guys are doing.
I don't think it's comprehensive. I certainly support any consortial arrangement, because I think higher ed is lacking in the spirit of cooperation. I think of us as, we're a team sport, ideally, right? So I think where consortium ends up getting limited is you kind of are always taking energy to make a choice. Well, are we going to share the parking lot or the library or this purchasing function? Whereas when you opt in from this Thrive model, we're committed to sharing the whole thing. You eliminate the noise and the friction around making those specific choices. So our faculty a few years ago said, we want to get a new online teaching platform. And our response is, well, of course. So the only criteria is we're going to have a committee of faculty and technology people across all the colleges. At the end, just pick one, and then we'll drive the best cost and we'll do the best training. I think a lot of consortial models get hung up on, well, we don't want that particular platform, and it breaks the efficiency and the team spirit, really.
It certainly can. And I am kind of wondering, because you don't get into the faculty stuff too much. Obviously, that's one example of being able to drive efficiency across many different campuses. But would shared governance come into any of these type of things?
We don't do any of the teaching, right? So the colleges control all of their academic offerings. They have distinct faculty. I think what we do is create a wonderful bridge where they can cooperate across institutions. So for example, we have a chief academic officer at TCS Education System, and her role is to really convene meetings of the college chief academic officers, see how she can make their life better and more interesting and more creative. If they're doing an accreditation visit or they want to roll out a new program, she can be part of the planning. She has the team of instructional designers that work across the colleges for online education. She has institutional research. She has some of the back office on things related to catalog and compliance. But again, it's a kind of facilitator and plus role to the academics. But the governance of really takes place at each college. We do have a system board that governs the entire system in tandem with each college also having its board that is the operating board for each college.
And I could see that there could be some excellent synergies and some challenges with the boards. How do you differentiate between the system-wide board and the individual college board?
We think of the college board as critical and really responsible for the operation of each institution. And the role of the system board is to maintain the overall health and resources and alignment of the entire system. But the system board never takes up business that it pushes to a college board. So the role is really to facilitate the mission and strategic plan of each college. So for example, if we had an example where Pacific Oaks College said, we want to purchase our campus. The role of the system in that is to say, yeah, it looks like it's within their financial means to do that. So now our job is to get the best financial arrangement and lowest terms for Pacific Oaks College, but not to decide whether or not they should do it. Perhaps there'd be a case of if a college said, we have a $50 million budget and we want to build a $500 million sports stadium, the system might say, that seems to threaten your viability as an institution, so we need to have a conversation. So that's an extreme example. Otherwise, it's kind of to say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and how can we make it better and achieve better financing and better security for you as a college by working together.
And that makes perfect sense. Why is it that you think that higher ed institutions haven't embraced this model more, whether it be through your firm or just, banding together with other colleges?
That's absolutely the conundrum. Maybe now that you've learned more about it, you can help us figure it out, because I get asked that a lot. We've probably talked to over 100 institutions. A number of them no longer exist because they closed their doors. I think there is this misplaced sense of our autonomy, our identity is reliant on doing all of these various activities. I think there's also some embarrassment. We're a very transparent system. So I think once the boards that join get comfortable with this idea of, wow, we can look into what's going on at other colleges within our system, we can look at best practices, I think it creates a higher level of performance for the boards, for our leadership. But I think on the front end, colleges and boards perhaps are embarrassed about mistakes they've made. Why are they in such dire straits? You get into a focus on things that we really view as not mission critical. So do you need a separate financial system at every small college? I would argue that has nothing to do with the mission and power of a college. But I think many institutions feel like, well, if we don't, have our own set of accounting team or audit function, that we're less. We think, again, our colleges have grown academically, accreditation, in terms of accreditation review, in terms of their scope and impact. They all have more employees today than when they joined our system. It may be a different configuration. They probably don't have the accountants that they had when they joined, but they likely have more faculty and student-facing personnel than they did at the time.
And that's what their mission is.
And they have better facilities and technology. That I can guarantee you. And we have case studies on this. The Pacific Oaks example I gave you is a good one, where that college is paying less in their monthly payment for real estate because they were able to finance as part of a bigger system as opposed to standalone college.
Of course, if you've got the power of a group, it's one of those things, the power of a group is so important, but higher ed has been so used to going it alone that even now where you've got colleges facing closure, they almost seem like they would rather close than merge or join a system such as yours.
Or join a system. That has been the really odd thing to me. And I've talked at national conferences. AGB has been very kind, both in writing and in conference settings, talking about our model. I'm still hopeful because I don't think we have to be the sole nonprofit system in higher ed. In fact, I wish that there are many institutions. We've talked to a number of religious institutions where they already have the commonality of a common religious faith or even specific order that supports them. And I've said, you all should talk about forming your own system in this way. So I don't get it. But in the meantime, we're sort of happy to plow ahead because all of our colleges have very ambitious growth in front of them in terms of new programs, new geographies, new modalities. And so while we're always talking to what we call our colleges affiliates, prospective affiliates, we're happy also to work on growing our existing colleges.
The model that you have developed and what you're doing is one of those things that I see coming into more of a forefront in the new COVID era of higher ed. Colleges are not going to be able to afford all of the back-end functions that they need. And if they can share those kind of services, whether it be through you, whether it be through forming their own consortia, or just banding together with other institutions, I think that is one of the key things that we're going to see come out of this COVID era and one of the key things that needs to change in higher ed.
I completely agree with you, Drum. And I also think, again, the secret sauce that is really available to everyone. So, of course, we're doing that today in the face of COVID. We also convene our President's Council. We've done it as frequently as 3 times a week during this crisis. Now we're at 2 times a week. Our presidents have a group where they can discuss what's the best response to COVID. What are the policies and practices? We have one of our colleges where the president put out very detailed plans to consider how she's going to open the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. Now that's available to share to all of our presidents. And so I think that goes beyond the shared services to you have this built-in network of brain power. And as you know, the federal government is providing some funding to higher ed. So we have this internal group that says, what's the best way to get the money quickly out to students, where it's going to students? And in terms of the money we're going to spend institutionally, what's the most effective way to spend it? And so again, it's bizarre to me why colleges don't want more of that dialogue.
For me too. So we're coming to the end of our time. I'm wondering if you had 3 things to tell your fellow presidents, things that they should be doing now or be considering, what would they be?
Adaptability is number 1. This crisis is amplifying that. But I think the best, most effective change leaders in higher ed have accepted for years that change is the constant. Just be willing to break conventional wisdom. Because I had a great board chair for many years who said, if success was as simple as copying what the other guy did, then everyone would be successful. So you have to come up with your own models and response. I think there has to be much more attention to keeping financial health for institutions. And it's not just a matter of, is your budget balanced, but in terms of your aspirations for distance education, new programs, better student services, do you really have the capacity to do it? If not, you should be looking at other models of operating, whether that's a system model, consortium, a merger. And the third thing goes back to a fundamental for us. Are your students successful? Are your students successful in terms of retention, graduation, their future careers? Do they look back and say, this was a great way to spend my years in higher ed? Am I happy with it? Don't lose touch of that core part of your mission ever.
Those are great things for your fellow presidents, and thank you for sharing. So what's next for you, Michael? Where do you see things going for yourself?
You know, we're 10 years young as TCS Education System, and every 5 years we've launched a new vision. We do it through a formal process. I think it's important to have a big vision. And so our board just approved Horizon 2025. And based on the fact that we've tied in this great infrastructure and the way we've discussed, in the next 5 years, we're going to build much more academic collaboration across the system. This college that's considering joining, I was excited to hear that they have plans for 3-year bachelor degrees. And so the discussion is, well, number one, that's innovative in its own right. So how can we help them power through to our many graduate programs, right, in a quick and effective way? We're standing up one of the nation's newest medical schools. So again, we call it radical cooperation, a radical cooperation perspective. How do we bring in that mental health and nutrition and early childhood knowledge that we have the other colleges, so that new physicians can gain from that? So I think we're going to see a lot of exciting growth and radical cooperation across our institutions. And I expect we'll see at least a couple more institutions join our system in the coming years. And that's going to keep us plenty busy. We already exist in the 3 main time zones. I would say Eastern, Central, and Pacific. Maybe we'll add some of the others as well. And we're also going to continue building our partnerships abroad. So that's very important to us.
Well, those are great things to aspire to. Well, Michael, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. You've given folks an awful lot to think about, a different model, which was really what I wanted to gain from this podcast, is to show folks there are other ways of doing it. And all it takes is, as you said, to be adaptable and to be able to think outside the box. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening this week. And a special thank you to this week's special guest, Dr. Michael Horowitz, CEO of TCS Education System, and for his sharing with us a new model on how colleges and universities can partner to innovate in this new era. I also want to give a special shout out to our sponsor, Blackbaud. Visit blackbaud.com/highered to learn about their cloud fundraising, accounting, education management, scholarship, and analytics solutions that are powering some of higher ed's top institutions. Our next guest is Dr. Russell Lowery Hart, president of Amarillo College, who will be joining to talk to us about student mental health during the COVID crisis. Too many times we all get caught up in the business of offering classes and faculty needs and wants, but we forget about the other half of the equation, students and the challenges that they face during this time and all the time, and how that may be the most critical portion of what we need to do.
This episode of Changing Higher Ed was brought to you by Blackbaud, the world's leading cloud software company powering social good. Be sure to visit blackbaud.com/highered to learn how they can help your institution deliver a better experience from admissions to advancement. Changing Higher Ed is a production of The Change Leader, a consultancy committed to transforming higher ed institutions. Find more information about this topic, along with show notes on this episode at changinghighered.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to the show. We would also value your honest rating and review. Email any questions, comments, or recommendations for topics or guests to podcast@changinghighered.com. Changing Higher Ed is produced and hosted by Dr. Drum McNaughton, post-production by David L. White.